care of our meeting summary from our last meeting. Do we have any? Yeah, do I have a motion or any comments?
I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Edmund.
I second.
Second from Chuck. All right, any comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the meeting minutes of our January 9th meeting, say aye.
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 All right, any opposed? I'm just pausing for anyone online that might want to oppose. Very good. Passes unanimously.
I abstain, Tom.
I'm sorry. I'll never remember to ask for extensions, but
Yeah, I'm
hopefully
abstaining also. This is Ava Romero abstaining.
I'm abstaining as well.
all right. And I believe we have received public comments. No, so the comments from was not to us.
I didn't include it in the public comments. It was a
Okay.
project. It was a project for consideration.
Yeah, we did receive a memo from the Tucson Airport Authority, which we'll deal with as we get into the projects. And we also received a suggested new project from a citizen, Rob Samuelson, who was suggesting a southeast side project. My suggestion about that project is that it be forwarded to the TMC and let them take a look at it and see, particularly from a technical standpoint, if it makes sense. And from the jurisdiction's point of view, that is, I believe, all Pima County and perhaps part of it in the city of Tucson, whether it is a project that they want to pursue herein. And a reminder also that as we send a list to the board, it'll be caveated, I guess, with any weasel words we can about the fact that it is an initial list and that we'll be continuing to refine it and the other elements of the plan in the coming months. And
Say what that project is, to install southeast side.
yeah, it's an extension of Camino Loma Alta, the proposal. And that project will also, we'll make that available to the rest of the CAC for your information and review. But as I say, that's one that I think we need to get feedback for sure from the TMC, particularly because it's a new suggested project, as is the one from Tucson Airport Authority that we'll discuss in some detail a little bit later. Okay, let's then move to the main item of our meeting today, which is a review of our project list and go through the process of refining that, as we said, down to a list of approximately $1.1 billion in estimated construction and project costs. So Paki, do you want to start us off with some slides here?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Nice to see everyone. And we also have Peter here, our staff, who's going to work through the portal as we dive into the project. So thanks, Peter, for being here. So what we're going to do today is we're going to review the feedback from the TMC's January 11th meeting. They reviewed your comments, so they had some feedback for you, which we'll go through. And then we have now a list of 37 projects that we want you to review and discuss. And then, of course, the goal is to continue to remove projects from the current draft list and determine, as Tom said, what you want to keep and you want to reserve. And then you're going to produce a fine draft list of named projects for the RTA board review and approval, hopefully. Okay. So the RTA Technical Management Committee, the TMC, met on January 11th. And based on the feedback and the discussion that you had at your previous meeting, these slides show what the TMC suggested. So the first thing was they suggest keeping the following, the 3 colossal cave projects and putting them into one project. Peter, I'm going to go ahead and finish the slides and then we'll dive into.
Okay.
Once I do these, I'll be really brief. We'll dive into the portal so they can see. So the 3 colossal cave projects that you discussed, 395, 3646, and 396, were suggested to be combined into one. So when we share the project list with you, this will now become one project for your consideration.
Just a reminder to everyone that that project begins at I-10 and goes up to Camino Loma Alta. The first section from I-10 is in Pima County, and the last section up to Camino Loma Alta is also in the county. But the one in the center lies within the city of Tucson. And as a result of those agencies getting together, I guess, to talk about their somewhat disparate, apparent rankings of the projects, they did agree that that project as a single project was what they think is best. And so that's the suggestion we received.
And
Mr.
this
Chairman?
would preserve the need for the southeast projects.
Mr. Chairman, just a question. Has a cost estimate now been put together for those 3 projects that we can consider?
We do have the cost estimate for the 3, Peter.
I
Did
think
we
we
do them yet?
just combined the 3,
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is in no more detail than the 3 individual projects put together, added up. So no additional or no savings that might be noticed from combining them.
And those numbers, how do I say this, are below the line of the 1.1 that at this point that would put us over 1.1 billion, correct? If this was included?
Yeah, we currently have a list, and we'll talk about each of the question marks we had for the TMC, but that list is 1.387 billion, I believe. Okay, so that's where we stand with our master list as it is today. Those projects are part of that master list. Yes.
I just,
Carolyn.
yeah, thank you. I wanted to clarify, TMC said that this will definitely include an overpass over the railroad tracks. We talked about that last time and it was a little unclear, which of course adds cost, and that's been included in there, but I just wanted to let everybody know that.
Yeah, and that's important because just late last week, I actually had a chance to talk to a number of people in that area when I spoke to the Vail Valley Chamber of Commerce.
Greater Bill.
Greater Vail, sorry. I was looking at the logo and it looked like 2 V's, so I was trying to make it into 2 V's. Anyway, those folks certainly recognized that Colossal Cave Road was important, but they were very much concerned that even a widening of that road would do virtually would be of virtually no help for congestion in the area unless the intersection with the railroad were grade separated. And I think our description of that project will include that grade separation, since we don't know that it'll necessarily be an overpass or an underpass, but it obviously will be one or the other, or maybe a combination where one goes up a little and the other goes down a little. Okay.
We have a question from
Rachel.
Hi, thank you. Tom, were you at the Vail Chamber of Commerce in your position as CAC? Leader, what are you doing talking to the Vail Chamber of Commerce?
I was invited to speak to them about the RTA, which is what I did.
As chair of the CAC or what?
Well, certainly.
Really?
Chair, if I may, Rachel, just as a reminder, the chair's role is the spokesperson for the CAC. So
Have you-
anytime he's asked to speak or make a presentation, he can do so.
Yeah, but it would be nice if you told us about that. Have you given presentations to other groups as well?
No, I think that's the first one I've given in a while anyway.
Will you be?
But from time to time, I'm asked to give a summary of where we stand, what the process is. I've done so to a few groups, yeah. Is there a concern that you have, Rachel, that you're dancing around right now?
Yes, that Vail, for whatever reason, is getting a lot of advocacy from. I don't know. I don't know why it's happening, but you've been very active, for example, in reading letters from people from Vail at the beginning of meetings while not reading mail from Tucson, or comments, I guess you could say, from Tucson people who put in public comments. I don't know exactly what's going on. I think it's weird. And do you will you let us know when you're asked to give presentations?
Mr. Chair, point of order, Joanne Sabah.
Yes, Joanne.
I don't see this being an agenda item, and I also don't see it being out of the definition of your role. How much time should we be allocating to this topic? As we have other business.
Yeah, thank you both for your comments. Rachel, yes, I'll be happy to let you know whenever I speak to official groups. But just like you, I circulate with a lot of people who ask about the CAC and ask about the RTA. And I'm certain that you talk to at least as many people as I do, and all of us most likely are doing the same.
I doubt that.
Rest assured, I'm not advocating for one group over another. Certainly, you know that we received approximately 8 letters from, we received approximately 8 letters from people in the Vail area. I read one of them at our meeting and let you know that if you wanted to read the others, that they would be on our website as they were. And there was one other letter that I noted that was from a City of Tucson resident, and that also was on the website. As far as speaking to other groups, I'm going to continue to do that. I think it's important that the RTA process be made aware, people be made aware of it, and that any
Well, then I guess I'll
input
speak
that
to
we're going to
groups
receive,
too.
we should be able to receive.
I guess I'll speak to groups too, not as a spokesperson for the group, but just as myself.
Okay. All right, let's move on to our next item, please, on the talking points here.
So the Technical Management Committee also suggested moving the 2 Marianne Cleveland Way projects, number 3647 and 476, based on the discussion that you had at the last meeting, and also keeping in mind that to give this Southeast, some projects, they would rather do they suggested doing the Colossal Cave corridor that I just discussed and remove these 2. So, and that's for your further discussion. Next slide.
I might point out on these 2 projects that they were low priority both, I think, from us as well as from those jurisdictions, relatively low priority. At least, and they're in two different jurisdictions as I recall.
Yes, they are. Thank you, Tom. So moving on, they also suggested keeping the two projects in the northwest area. That was the Thornydale Road, number 2546, and the Ina Road, number 3, 1535. That's the one from I-10 to Camino de la Tierra.
That being the town of Marana sponsored
Yeah.
project.
Moving on, they also suggested removing the Ina Road project number 473 from Cañada del Oro Wash to Paseo del Norte and replacing that one with number 3569, which is the Orange Grove Road number 1, La Cholla Boulevard to Oracle Road. And this is the one that's being considered to extend to the west for continuity.
Yeah, we have two projects on Orange Grove that are on our list. This one, number 1, which begins at Oracle and goes westerly, is the primary project I think that most were concerned about. I believe it was Kevin, if I'm not mistaken, who spoke about this potential swap, and Dale as well. That one of the Ina projects, this 473, may be that we may be better served with the Orange Grove number 1, and then the idea of the Orange Grove, I guess, number 2. I don't recall what we called it, but the other one that takes up at La Cholla and goes a little bit further to the west, in order basically to complete that corridor, at least to its current standards, not certainly the ultimate standards, but to its current standards.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
could we see that displayed on the map for a minute?
Sure, Peter, can you pull number 3569?
Yeah, the two, just widen this out to where we can see the two Inas and the two Orange Groves, if you would. There you go. Not quite both. Yeah.
Yeah, they're both there.
They're both there. Yeah.
You can't quite see where the two Inas are split, but there's two projects there, right? Okay, and then you can see the two Orange Groves. The reason there's a gap there in the Orange Grove is because the intersection at La Cañada has been improved, and so you would simply be tying into those improvements.
But it came in as one Orange Grove project, the 3569. Even though there's a gap, there was one project.
And that was actually a suggestion of the CAC to the TMC that they agreed with.
Yes, Mary, thank you for clarifying. The CAC had made the suggestion and the TMC agreed with that suggestion.
Thank you.
Sure. No questions on this?
Wait a minute.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I was trying to keep up there. Can you keep that screen up? Yeah. Our conversation last time, I'm looking at my notes, it took place at about 1:10 p.m. Project 473 got low ranks from all of us. And we discussed it again. It got low ranks from Pima County and it ranked low on our technical score. Tom suggested we send it back to TMC to explain to us why it had been put back on our list. Dale said we shouldn't add either Ina Road, we should add Orange Grove. Bruce had made a motion that he withdrew at that point. Kevin asked about sidewalks. Rick talked about a multi-use path. And we never decided to advance Project 473. We wanted more information from TMC. So I'm
Right, and the TMC is suggesting it be removed.
Yes.
Okay.
based on your input.
I saw the replacing it with, and that's what I'm,
Oh, I see.
it says removing and replacing. 473 was a project we wanted to remove. That's in there as a replace.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That is
Replace it
correct.
with Orange Grove,
Mhm.
but
Okay, so
remove it.
The
Yeah.
slide is written in a confusing way.
Okay, so what it means is number 473 would be removed and
Got it.
number 3569 would be added. Or moved forward.
Cool.
Yeah.
Move forward, yeah. That's not how I read that, so thank you.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah.
Uh,
So then the TMC also agreed to keep the Drexel corridor and, to have the whole corridor complete.
Yeah, that was a recommendation, I think by Mary, that we add the last Drexel piece that for some reason, I think it may have had a little bit of a gap there, but TMC certainly agreed that to complete the corridor, it was important to add 472 as we recommended.
And again, that's just adding all those projects budgets together. So
Yep.
we'll have one budget, nothing gets, thank you.
So additional points to consider based on your previous discussion, the Sonoran corridor, they also felt that it should be kept on the list. And maybe get a little bit more input from ADOT on the project description. And also to explain a little bit better about the tier 2 environmental impact statements. So they were in agreement with you that it needs a little bit more explanation, but they didn't want to remove it just yet.
Yeah, there was a comment that perhaps by allowing this to be a more flexible description of the project, that is right of way and or design level work would perhaps be better for public support. But also there was comment that it would be good if we could guarantee that this money was useful and would be seen as a match for many federal or state funds that might be attracted to the Sonoran corridor as a result of this tier 2 environmental impact statement. A reminder, tier 1 was completed, which set a very wide swath of area that this corridor could potentially lie within, and the tier 2 modifies that down to an actual more or less construction alignment. And then upon approval of the tier 2, money can be allocated and construction can follow. That is, final design and construction can follow. And it starts a clock ticking of 3 years, I believe, during which time the project needs to be advanced to the design level, or failing that, the tier 2 environmental impact statement would be dormant and have to be updated. Not necessarily that there were changes, but the idea, I think, behind NEPA is that in 3 years, conditions could very well change, and we need to be assured that those changes have been captured and properly documented. So Sonoran corridor leave on the list. I personally didn't see that there was a great need to do anything beyond call it for right of way, but that's something we can discuss as a committee if we want to. Bruce and then Carol.
Well, as you know, I'm a supporter of the Sonoran corridor, but I think given the limitation on the funds that we have, that it's really important that we make sure those funds are used for where local funds are required. That project is really going to be primarily a state and federal project if it's going to happen.
Right.
That's why I was very supportive of using it for right of way. I think if we might want to say use for right of way and or local match purposes, but just to throw $20 million into the design process is a drop in the bucket. And if that's what we're going to use it for, I would rather see the money put into another project. So I guess I would recommend to the committee that we put some guidelines on how we would want to see those funds used. I recognize you want a degree of flexibility, but I think property acquisition and local match are good parameters for our commitment to those funds. So that would be my recommendation.
So rather than add design level activities, instead say potential match.
Local
Potential
match or
match.
funding
Yeah.
requirements. Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, we have Lisa.
Ava, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to ask, because it sounds like part of the desire to keep this on the table is in order to be able to acquire federal funds that could be available for the project. How does that read in light of this widening of Interstate 10 from Casa Grande to Chandler that was not awarded $360,000 in federal grants as hoped? I mean, I think that feels like a bad precedent. I'd love to know, what people think about that.
I'm not sure I see the connection. You're just saying that because
Well,
the
if they wouldn't, if the
I-10
federal
project
government,
was
right, if the federal
not
government
awarded?
decided not to award this I-10 widening, like what part of that precedent is like promising for Sonoran Corridor to get federal dollars?
Well, I think we'll know more when the feds return their feedback on the project. But one of the potential reasons for it not making the cut was that it was a very high number, and the projects that were approved allowed the feds to kind of spread the peanut butter. They were allowed to take lower cost projects and get more of them as a result. I don't think it
one of the
necessarily
things
says that.
but one of the things that was cited was a lack of intermodality. That's one of the things that was cited as reason for not.
I haven't
granting
seen
the
any of the
funds.
feedback from them. I haven't seen any of the feedback from the feds as to why it was not approved. Edmund, do you have something?
From what I read, Eva, it was because it's a freeway, so you can't have cycling or bus routes, et cetera, where the rest were kind of more in city, in county type projects.
Right, so Sonoran Corridor wouldn't have significant intermodality, would it?
Just a different use. In Sun Corridor, if you look from the SALC perspective, they're going to look for us to play ball as a community. We got to have some funds for the Sonoran Corridor. Once again, we're going to be passed over for any of the federal funds or state funds that come play in our area.
So is intermodality
Southern
a
Arizona
part of
Leadership Council.
is intermodality a part of the Sonoran Corridor project?
What was the question?
Is
Is
intermodality
intermodality-
to the Sonoran Corridor? The Sonoran Corridor is not anticipated to become immediately to be a freeway. And as it develops, it will certainly be multimodal. Ultimately, if it does become a freeway, there will have to be adjustments made in where those other modes are placed. So I don't think at this point, because they are in this tier 2 process, that we know the answers to that. I think all of us are guessing to some extent. Dale and then Abby.
Yeah, I'll throw out a couple guesses from a couple of the articles I read. Was one, there was a lot of thought that they had just bit off more than the feds were willing to chew at this time. And they did approve 2 other freeway projects, 2 other Interstate 10 freeway projects as part of Interstate 10 in other states. And, so I think it's kind of up in the air as to where they go in the future. I think the intermobility is an issue. But as I say, if we look at the Aviation Parkway, it's being developed with separate bicycle path in conjunction with it. You know what I mean? Yes. And then there's the question, as you say, is what level is it developed as it begins? So that's all I've got to add.
Okay. And
I had a question because Edmund and I had a quick little sidebar and I wanted to actually get that so that we can all hear it because I've never heard of the Southern Arizona Leadership Council. Is that what you said
Correct.
before? So if you could explain what you said, what that is and what you meant about them playing ball, I'd like to know more and it seems relevant.
Sure. So SALC is Southern Arizona Leadership Council, which is primarily business leaders in a room representing Southern Arizona. Phoenix Leadership has Phoenix Leadership. Northern Arizona has their business leadership as well. Cool part about SALC, besides the people in the room really caring about what's going on in Southern Arizona from the business perspective, economic development perspective, is that when we do hear from somebody, if we hear from the state, we'll hear from the governor, we hear from about the city, we'll hear from the mayor. So we get some really good information. Last meeting, we did discuss RTA, and that was Mike Ortega from the city of Tucson. It was Jan Lesher from the county, who both chair the TMC, which is very interesting. I think it's great. I think they're great that they chair, and the fact that they're technical and they actually do this for a living, I think is good. It adds some value to their conversations. A lot of us, you know, obviously we love the RTA and what's happening here. We hope this passes, but we don't do this for a living, like managing a city or a county, et cetera. But SALC, you know, we look at economic development and planning for the future, looking at growth. And if you look at the Sonoran Corridor, it's been talked about for years. And do we know exactly what it is right now? We don't. It's I hate to say it's still in concept stage, but it is. But at some point, the feds will come in play, but the county will come into play, and they're going to ask whether or not we have the funds to contribute to actually have this sort of Sonoran Corridor created. So yeah, that's the playing ball piece.
okay, thanks.
One more, just on Bruce's point about being more descriptive. In the last bond, there was considered to be a road. We ended up taking it out, the I-10 bypass, but because it was right-of-way access only, it showed up on the map as a dotted line. And I assume that's what it was shown, so kind of like, and then explained that it means right-of-way access only. So I don't know if that's descriptive enough or we need more than that on the ballot, but that's what I think would have showed up before, which really set it apart from the other projects.
Yeah, visually, that'd be a good way to bring people's attention to it, that this is something somewhat different.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just for clarification, you know, the Sonoran Corridor has been recognized as a corridor by the federal government, which then sets the planning process in place. So it is more than a concept at this point. It has corridor status. Now, obviously, it hasn't been designed. It hasn't been determined what it would look like. The preliminary work has been looking at the most likely alignment and those kinds of things. Again, I do think this is important. It's not a lot of our money, but I just think that money needs to be used wisely. And my suggestion is to put some description around how we would like it to be used. So.
Let me ask another question, because you and Edmund sounds like you've been involved and I have not been in the tier one. Do they have any language that talks about possible multimodal? Or do they not talk about that in tier one? So, but they didn't say it's not in and they didn't say it's in, but it was not a part of the conversation. Because it is a bypass between I-10 and I-19, so it kind of seems like it's more on the freeway end of things.
Might ask Rick if he
Rick, do you-
recalls.
Yeah, do you know, Rick?
I don't recall that they got into any particular detail on that, not at a tier one level. I know there's an expectation that would probably perform like a typical freeway would. So those are going to be full access controlled facilities. They're looking at ultimate configuration, and then probably will chase out the details of the exact operations in the tier two. I know that doesn't give you a lot of detail. It's kind of a nebulous answer that, you know, it's out there recognized as a project. Its primary purpose and need is for freight mobility and connectivity and for handling some of the overload volumes that are going to be on I-19 and I-10.
Another question, I don't know if this is anybody can answer this, but as I had heard the 210 aviation when it was being built, local people had to push for there to be a bicycle. That was not part of their planning, but Tucsonans had to push for a separated bicycle. Yeah.
Yes. You know, and this is ancient history. Really ancient
So
history.
then we get the ancient dinosaur here to
Yeah.
deliver it to us.
In 1989, there was a major, the ADOT had already come up with a plan that made the Aviation Parkway a freeway coming off of Interstate 10 and going through the downtown area. The city of Tucson, with the support of or initiated partially from the Citizens Transportation Advisory Committee, objected to that. There was a lot of objection throughout the community and
The whole
downtown
thing
and
for the whole project.
of the project being a freeway through the downtown area. And in 1989, as Citizens Transportation Advisory Committee, we recommended there be something else done. There was an extended study to come up with an alternative. And the decision was made at that time to build a portion of the parkway from Broadway south to Palo Verde Overpass. Okay. And but it was then understood, and from that point forward, pretty well understood that there would be a separate bicycle route that would not be on the roadway, but it would be a separate bicycle route that paralleled. As you can see, they're building the bridge right now where it takes it across across Stone as you come into downtown. So since that redesign process, which took like, in fact, some of you may, it took 8 or 9 years to get that redesign done. And it was a very extensive process and has included, and that eventually came up with a design that's being built right now. But that was like the third iteration of the amended plans. So, I mean, it took a long time to get there. But all of those plans included bicycle support from the time they ceased the freeway plan.
Follow-up question.
In my not so distant or not so ancient history, it's a similar practice that bike and ped facilities are typically handled on these type of full access control freeway facilities as a separate feature, separate element, the responsibility of whatever local jurisdiction. So that's kind of been my practice as well on other routes like 77, 86, et cetera.
Jamie?
SR 77, yeah. Further up north.
Oracle Road.
I would never bike on it. I'm never gonna bike on any of these
Do
overpasses.
not even think about doing.
Exactly.
Jamie?
Yeah, so I think I agree with Bruce that it sounds like, and what Edmund's saying is, so we may have to bring dollars to the table as a local entity, especially if we want some multimodal features. So do we need like a formal motion to put those restrictions on this funds for right of way or local contributions, or is this just kind of more consensus? Are we all in agreement with that?
Can you repeat that?
So I think we've talked a lot about Sonora Corridor, and it sounds like we don't want to whack it because I think it's a corridor that's needed, but 20 million is not going to build it. But I think we want to make sure those funds are restricted to things that actually benefit the region, right? So so I think we should, I think Bruce's idea maybe should be, does it need to be a motion that it's restricted for right of way or local funding?
Yeah, I think that's a part of what we would recommend as far as that project. I would presume that we'll want to make sure that the rest of the committee is okay with that. But I heard that in the form of something that I would ask for a motion to solidify so that when we send it forward to the board, they understand what our desire is about that project. Should it make that list that we send forward?
All right.
Let's, okay, we have a couple of, we have Ava, do you have a follow-up? And I saw Justine also, you be next.
Yeah, I just wanted to make abundantly clear that the information that came back in terms of why that I-10 project was not funded was because it did not have intermodal projects, and that is what's being prioritized by federal dollars right now. So I do think that we need to be careful about saying that, oh, if we invest this money, the federal government will definitely invest more money, you know, in any like, you know, immediate future, when actually there's proof to the contrary, because I think that really what the federal government is interested in is addressing the climate crisis. And I don't know if our list comes anywhere near some of the climate crisis priorities that we came up with, you know, in terms of really evaluating what we're putting forward in accordance with that. And I am very curious about what the other members feel in terms of, you know, what, you know, how we're making these decisions and where our priorities are.
Okay, and I'll be sure that we get those on the record as well. Justine, did you drop off or do you still have a question?
Well, you know, I guess my question is somewhat, I think Eva kind of touched on it, and I always feel a little bit out of my element in these meetings, so I do apologize. And I feel like I'm asking questions that maybe are just, maybe other people have these kinds of questions, because I think there are a lot of people who may feel as confused as I am or sort of lost. But I'm just kind of wondering, as we are having these discussions about projects, and I know we kind of went through a process of ranking them, but are we still, I don't hear a lot of reference to our guiding principles. And so Ava sort of just kind of mentioned climate change. And I think I just want to be sure that we are kind of holding up that lens to these projects as we continue to kind of flesh out our considerations of them. And I'm not feeling like those are part of the conversations that we are having. And maybe I'm missing something. I'm sorry. I'm always like a little bit just confused.
Yeah, I guess I would, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Tom.
No, I would just respond that we used those goals that we developed to help us rank the projects and to score them. And we've been referring back to those scores from time to time as we've developed the list. That doesn't mean that there's, you know, potentially you know, more focus on one or more of those goals for an individual project that the committee may feel is appropriate. So if you have that feeling about any of these projects, I encourage you to bring that up and see how the rest of the committee responds to that. But you know, as far as understanding what the overall goals were and how we looked at them as a committee, we have that information, and it contributed to us developing the list that we have now. Now, as we're refining that list, is, you know, the appropriate time, I think, for us to dive into some of those individual aspects and those individual goals. But recognize that we have a lot of goals, and as we've said from the beginning, no single project is likely to meet all those goals, but rather when we finish this plan, it should robustly address all of our goals. Did I have another comment internally? Bruce?
Maybe this is beating the horse dead, but going back to the question about what does the failure of the federal government to fund the widening of Interstate 10 between Phoenix and Casa Grande? I think we need to be careful that we don't draw the wrong conclusions from not funding that. That's coming from a specific pot of money at a specific point in time. There are also more traditional federal dollars that might be available for that. And also, you know, that's in 2023. We're looking at a 20-year horizon. It may well be later in the process the federal government would find merit in funding, say, the Sonoran Corridor. The other thing I understood from that was that the feds were looking at the fact that the state of Arizona has a huge cash reserve and saying you ought to be looking to state funds first before you compete for these other funds. So my only point is that I think we're making a point in principle about the Sonoran Corridor. It's difficult to draw conclusions at this point until it becomes a more defined project.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. And the $20 million that we have at risk, if you will, is, as somebody else put it, a drop in the bucket as far as the overall cost of the corridor. And it does not have to be wasted money either. Certainly, a route on this defined corridor will someday occur. What it looks like perhaps is really up in the air. Okay, is this our last one here? The
Yeah, we have a
sixth?
couple more, and then,
Okay, let's look at
and
this.
then, you know, we want to make sure you have the discussion for some other projects we want to present to you that have not made it to this discussion level. So moving through this, so the other project that the TMC felt agreed with the CAC that it needs more additional information and feedback is the number 3660, the 6th Avenue Ronstadt Transit Center to the Tucson International Airport, the high capacity transit project. And they did agree that more feedback from the Tucson Airport Authority and the City of South Tucson is needed. We've not received any formal feedback yet, but that's pending.
Well, Kaki, I recall the discussion at TMC. We also, I suggested it, that we also wanted to get more feedback from the city of Tucson in terms of flexibility on routes, or does it need to be on 6th and all that, because they did give us some information at the time, but it was because it was early in the planning process and getting this kind of feedback. I think we should hear from the city of Tucson as well, because this is a priority for them.
City of South Tucson.
Tucson, no, city of Tucson.
And I believe the City of Tucson is coordinating with the City of South Tucson.
Okay,
That's what
I
they
mean, I
said
just
on
want to
it.
make sure
Yeah.
that that's,
Yeah.
the additional information that we get is from all three.
So this is perhaps a poster child for potential down the road modifications. My guess from just what I've heard in our previous discussions is that this is a popular project among a number of our CAC members, and we'll probably have quite a few champions for it. And should we send it forward to the board and then hear back perhaps that Tucson and South Tucson do not agree and the airport authority is lukewarm about it, let's say, that may change our minds as we go. Given the information we have today, I think that's what we should be dealing with and using to reach our conclusions. Okay, I have a comment from Ron.
Yeah, I guess I just have a question. Why wouldn't this project be shown in the transit portion?
It could be eventually.
That wouldn't come out of the 1.1.
Potentially. Everything is potentially.
Just
you know?
like, okay, thank you.
Yeah. So it could be moved to the transit bucket, if you will, and perhaps its money go with it. So that the 1.1 becomes 1.0, or it could go over there and Carolyn's subcommittee could say, well, I forget what the percentage was of projects for transit should be upped to add that on top of it. There's a lot of different possibilities, and ultimately the board will have to decide. And we as a committee can make recommendations to them about what we suggest. But you bring up a valid point that we'll consider today as we start looking at this and continue to go forward. I have Arlen and then Karen online, and then we'll have Abby and Dale in here. So Ava, or I'm sorry, Arlen, you want to start us?
Yeah, just real quick. Did I not hear that the Tucson Airport Authority did submit some feedback in our public comment? And I'm wondering, I assume that was about this? And
No, it was not.
Oh, it was not.
So it was
Okay.
about a connection from Country Club Road, and we'll get to that.
Okay, thank you.
Karen.
Yeah, so I actually have not heard the champions that you've heard, Chair, speaking verbally. Maybe they'll pipe up today, but I actually haven't heard CAC members championing this particular HCT. So that's one point, not super important, but the other thing is there's, this project 3660 and then 3661 is referred to as Tucson Norte Sur. And there is an ongoing 3-phase study happening right now, available online. If you just go to the Tucson Norte Sur website, there's a 259-page study that has a bunch of suggestions that need to happen for the next steps. I would really make this required reading on anybody who plans to vote on this. It just seems like there's way too much up in the air that needs to happen before we all throw our weight behind it. And I'm going to just draw your attention to specifically pages 152 and 153. That kind of cuts to the chase of what the recommendations are.
And what's the document you're referring to? I didn't catch the name of that.
So the name of the study for this project is called the Tucson Norte Sur. That's Tucson Norte, NOR.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you go to that website, they just uploaded this 259-page study. I think it was December 22nd of last year. So I haven't thoroughly reviewed it, but I did go to the recommendation pages, and there seems to be a lot up in the air in terms of what needs to happen before this is a viable project. Thanks.
Yeah, I know for one thing, previously, I may have even called it a bus rapid transit project simply because I had heard it described as such. I understand clearly now that it's not nearly to that level, but that other high capacity transit solutions would be considered in a study. And I suppose that this Norte Sur study is probably the first of a number of those kinds of studies. Let's see, did I have someone else, Abby, and then Ava?
Yeah, since Ron brought it up, how much money do we have to work with for transit?
I don't know.
I know that number and I just don't have it with me right now. 1 point. Oh, I'll give it. I'll send it to you.
Okay, because I feel like I say this at a lot of meetings too. I appreciate what Justine just said, and I just pulled up the guiding principles. I still don't understand how we're starting with road projects if we're paying attention to our guiding principles. And a number of people raised this last time and asked what sort of, Bruce is nodding because he's one of them, asked what sort of transit projects and bus lines would be going to places before we considered roads. And it still feels to me like we're doing this the wrong way when we're looking at road projects without first doing transit. And that feels like anything else to our guiding principles slip service if we're not prioritizing transit, and we don't even know how much money we have for transit. And I feel like the way we're looking at the road projects is we're saying, we've got all this money, we need to spend it all. We need to do this first because we don't need to spend it all.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
except
you
we
think
have, no, I don't. No, I do not.
I-
We're
you know-
spending less than a quarter of it.
Right.
The projects that have been requested.
Yeah, I'm make this short, but I've pointed out multiple times that the statute starts with transit as the only mandated element of the RTA plan. And I just feel like we need to be starting with that. We don't know what road pieces are missing. And we're talking about things, this feels like pork barrel politics. It feels like we're saying, let's give these people this and these people this, and let's put this in and sweeten the pot for a statewide business association instead of let's look at our regional priorities that we discussed. And I feel like I'm gonna have to abstain on every single project if we do vote, just because I feel some of them might be great. But if we're not looking at them holistically and we're not looking at them by putting transit and multimodal stuff first, I don't really know how we're creating a plan.
Well, I would respectfully disagree about putting it first. This happens to be what I consider a critical path item in the elements of our plan. We have a lot of cost estimations and technical input that's necessary to get these projects actually to where we as a committee understand them and can make a clear recommendation to the board. At this point, we're starting with that so that the board can move forward, so the RTA can engage the community, its community partners and jurisdictions to estimate those actual costs to kind of catch us up from this tremendous round of inflation that has so impacted every part of this plan. Without that, we can start with transit, and we're going to come back to this, and we'll be out another year. So the idea of getting this initial list together so that we can develop it more fully, and then certainly test everything against transit and the other elements of the plan, I think is an appropriate way for us to go. And right now we're nearly done with that process. So I would really encourage you to look at these projects today the best that you can, understanding obviously that there are other parts of our goals and objectives, our guiding principles that may not be fully understood or addressed at this point, and everything has to fit together. We have to have all the elements work together and look at the plan when it's completed overall to see if it's a good plan or not. All right, sorry for the speech. Bruce.
Appreciate it.
Well, I'd like to just follow up on this topic, and I'm coming kind of from the same place Abby is, in the sense that I'm committed to participate in this process of identifying these projects and getting them ready for forward to the board. But when we convey them to the board, I believe we need to put some qualifiers or some caveats on what we're sending and in what context. Edmund mentioned the other day that Jan Lesher and Mike Ortega, the chairs of the Technical Management Committee, spoke to SALC. And in the process of doing that, they said, there's another bucket of money in this process that's available to transit. Well, I need to understand what that other bucket of money is and how that plays into the process. So I guess all I'm saying is I will vote for moving these projects forward, but I think the RTA board needs to understand that they are one piece of the equation that we're focused on, and not just leave it to them to say, okay, you've done your work.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And as I said at the beginning of the meeting, these projects go to the board, at least with my multiple caveats, that it's an initial list and there's a lot more work, including creating an entire plan to surround it before that list of named projects can be finalized. Also, there may be some input back from the board about those projects that would be helpful for us to know now, rather than simply show up with what we consider to be a final list at the end of June.
So from a procedural point of view, if we finish our work on the projects today, will we have another opportunity to then consider those other items that we want to send along to the board before they're transmitted formally to the RTA board?
Those other,
Well, the things that I'm talking about, for instance.
oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I
This
just
is simply, yeah, this is simply the initial named project list, which represents less than half of the overall plan revenues. The remainder is still work that we have to do. And as such, as soon as we finish this, we jump into all that work, but particularly the transit subcommittee's work. Okay, Ava, and then I have a couple in here.
Oh, I would just find it really helpful to know what the transit budget is, and also how is it possible to have large transit projects that fall outside of the quote unquote transit budget. I think that people are saying this phrase a lot, right? A budget is a value statement. And I think that is how we're going to be judged, and I don't have a really full contextual picture of that yet. I'd also like to know if, for example, this Norte Sur was asked, what other transit projects do we have? What does that look like? Because I really want to understand the full context of what I'm agreeing to before we push stuff through, because, we're talking about like, hey, don't worry about it. Let's just push it through for now. Later on, we'll have more clarity. And then, we can revise stuff later. And sometimes that clarity doesn't seem to ever come. So I really would like to request some of that.
So Ava, we do know a few things. We know that the board intends to send forward to the voters a plan that currently they believe should have $1.1 billion worth of named projects. And we know that they've sent us, although none of us can remember exactly what the number is, but Paki has found that number. But my point is that there are numbers. These are where they begin. Remember that we're working with the TMC as well as with the board to refine this plan. And should this committee believe that some more or less in the named projects, or more or less in the safety projects, or in the transit projects is important for the board to consider, then we will certainly send that position to them. For right now, though, we've been directed by the board to find $1.1 billion worth of named projects, and then a percentage that represents how much?
510 million is what the board established for transit.
$510 million worth of transit improvements and operational costs. And then the other buckets of money that we will be discussing and going through. So, all those elements have to come together, and then we have to look and see whether it makes sense as a full plan.
Have we spoken about other transit projects before besides this one?
We briefly discussed the trolley, historic trolley restoration, I think, in in South Tucson. And as I recall, it did not make our list, but we thought that it was most likely something that the transit committee subcommittee would want to look at as a categorical project. That's the only other one I can think of. Amanda, you're up.
I think my question is going to be quick, but it goes back to a point that was made earlier. And you had said, Tom, that once we get through these named project lists, that we'll be able to start focusing on other areas like transit. And you mentioned the subcommittee, and I'm wondering when the subcommittee for transit is going to meet again.
I haven't set up the date. We're working on it. We wanted to get through the name project list first, but that will be the next thing on my list, is to set up the transit subcommittee. Hopefully
Great.
next.
I was just wondering, since it sounds like we're getting close to being at that stage, and I just want to make sure we're not delayed any longer, and not have that conversation. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we just want to make sure, Mr. Chair, we just want to make sure the name project list gets moved to the board. That's the priority right now, but not that nothing, not that the other things are not, but we want to do this first so that I can then move on to the elements, and transit is next.
Okay,
Dale,
Dale,
Okay, just to, I guess, quick summarize here, from my standpoint, I really feel that getting the transit committee moving is clearly a needed priority. And I want to make that clear. I've got a totally different question here, and it's my part of being an accountant, I guess. But I want to add, the basic question is, we keep talking about a 1.3 billion total for our current project list. And I wanted to clarify which number we're talking about. Are we talking about total cost on the spreadsheet, or are we talking about RTA funding request?
these are RTA funding requests.
Because when I add up what I've got here for the RTA funding request, we don't come close to 1.33 billion. So I would like to see how we came to that number.
Okay.
Okay.
We will.
And
We'll come to that.
so, I know we can select a group of projects and come up with a number here. But we need to, at least I feel I need to.
Okay, let's keep moving through this list of feedback.
Okay, so then moving on to additional points to consider. The TMC did say perhaps to reconsider for addition of a project in the southwest area, the Valencia Road Mission to Camino de Oeste. That's number 3642.
This is the last project essentially on the Valencia Road corridor, and it would complete the corridor.
That are on the list for the next RTA, or that they've already done. So on our
Yeah.
list currently.
Right.
Right. That's
Good point.
correct. And then this one is the one that none of you have seen yet. This is number 2540. This is the one from the airport that Tom mentioned earlier. So the original one was from ADOT. 2540 is I-10 Country Club Road Traffic Interchange. We're referencing that project because, as you know, ADOT originally submitted this project, but does no longer needs RTA funding, so they pulled it out. However, the TIA feels very strongly that a connection from I-10 to the airport is still needed. So what they're proposing is widening South Country Club Road from I-10 to the airport to accommodate a 4-lane divided roadway with a race center median. So what we did is we added number 2540 back on just for the purposes of discussion, because the proposal from TIA project by itself doesn't exist. If that makes sense.
And do we have a cost for that?
There is no cost at this time.
Or doesn't.
It's free.
It's all free. No, my understanding is I think they'd like to take the funding from the ADOT. But this has not been discussed yet. The TMC did not have this on January 11th. We just received this. So.
And this is not part of that 1.3 plus billion that I talked about, Bruce.
I would just ask the question, if TIA is going to propose this, given that they have independent taxing authority, to what degree will they participate in funding
36
this
million,
project?
sorry. Yeah,
What?
36 million is what they're proposing.
They're proposing, but
That's the
36
total cost
TIA.
right there. That's what
This is
they'll-
what it would be. It would
For the whole
cost.
thing?
What this segment would.
I know, but I'm asking the question, what financial participation is TIA willing to put in to advance this project? Because they have taxing authority to do airport related projects. So are they proposing this as a shared project with the RTA or something? Or do we know?
I don't know. I do know that TA is not a taxing authority,
Well,
so
they generate revenue and fees from all the things that they do, so they are able to fund their own development.
I mean,
projects.
our RTA.
You're saying they have like a bonding authority, or you're just saying from their normal income?
The Tucson Airport Authority has the ability to raise capital to do capital improvements, and I'm just wondering whether they are willing to contribute as we ask the question about this project, whether they're willing to put a financial contribution into the project.
They only provided what the amount would be.
I
Yes.
understand.
They have that.
He's asking you to ask them.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make that clear. Yeah, they're just proposing this and
Yeah, their memorandum indicates that there is some additional money that is set aside through impact fees that the county has that could go to it, and that $30 million would be the amount needed in their estimation to complete the project. So I suggest for now we put in 30 million as that RTA funding request. Should we indicate that we don't believe we should pay for the whole thing, or even the board decide that, then perhaps that number would change.
And all I'm asking is that we ask them to clarify additional funding sources, because there's federal aviation funds that can be used for these kinds of purposes, and they're done all over the country.
Yeah, and I believe that this is a project that we should get TMC get their take on as well. So that's what I would suggest. There's somebody who knows a little bit about TIA. Ed?
Yeah, so as part of the Tucson Airport Authority, I've seen some information about this project, or the thoughts on this project. So to my understanding, PAG outside of RTA is paying for the interchange off of the country club. I'm not sure about dollars coming from the airport yet. I don't think that's been discussed yet. I do know that from the SALC perspective, or a Sun Corridor perspective, the roads around the airport are a major concern. When site selectors, the organizations or individuals that come to communities to see whether or not a company with higher paying wages can move to your community, they've said we have two issues. Whether or not we've tried to put our best foot forward, our roads are a major issue. Specifically, our roads around the airport are a major issue. And then also we lack industrial spec space. But I just know, and I remember when the site selectors came to town, we were so concerned with our roads. I think it was the county paved Valencia right before they arrived, so that they drove down a decent road. We are one of the few, I would say probably the largest, this is just me speaking, probably the largest city of my knowledge that you drive not through a parkway, et cetera, to get to your airport. You go through kind of side neighborhoods to get to your international airport. So this, I think, is a huge opportunity for us to be, have a more attractive entrance to our neighborhood, to our airport, especially from the site selector perspective.
Abby and then Arlen.
Just wrapping this back to transit, I'm from Chicago. You take a train to the airport. I went to law school in DC. You take a train to the airport. Transit is intimately connected to this. And I'm not trying to, Karen, I'm not trying to push anything through South Tucson. I'm just saying, we can't think about these things without thinking about transit first. And I agree with you, I get lost every time I drive to the airport. It's a problem. But there's another solution to this too, and it's not just widening roads or paving roads.
I'd love to see a train. I just think it's a cost issue at this point. When we did the streetcar, and that'd be pork. No, I'm just kidding. When you look at even like our streetcar, if you remember from the very first RTA CAC, we received the largest Tiger grant in the history of the United States in order to get our streetcar, and that's just U of A to downtown. Imagine trying to go all the way to the airport. I'm with you. I'd love it. Let's do it. Somebody's got to find the money.
Okay, I'll make the motion.
Yeah. Well,
Grab every other deal we've got, and we'll have
getting from I-10 to the airport on transit will be a little more challenging. I think you're gonna have to have some kind of.
And this is definitely an area for transit, for sure. For sure, it's an airport.
All right, Arlen.
Thanks. 2 points. One, I'm assuming that since this is new, that this doesn't have the level of analytical detail provided on all of the other projects that we've had through our study, and I think that needs to be done, so that's available. Number two, I don't know how, and maybe the airport can answer how South Country Club would factor into the master plan of the airport's master plan. I know that I have not seen a current master plan since I did one many years ago. And I just don't know how that impacts. So that's a question for information when the airport gets back to us about both potential funding and then how it works with the master plan. Thank you.
Sounds good. Those are very good comments. Next slide.
Before you go into that, can you put the number, if that does go, do we have a number that it brings it up to? Or is that already in? It's
Not,
included in-
not yet, but
Okay.
we'll see what we have for
Okay.
the total.
Gotcha.
Because I think we started with 32 projects or something like that. And there's, with these combined and additions and all of that, we've just got multiple
Changes.
All right,
multiple
so
changes,
moving
yeah.
on. Slide.
It's not moving.
It's not moving. This is just, this was a map that we included of this corridor. It's hard to see on here. And we'll provide this information following the meeting since we received it after your packet went out, but we just wanted to show you what the airport provided us.
Okay, next. Okay, what I'd like to do is go through these individual projects that we've just discussed and make sure that we either add them or not to the list. So these were projects that we had added or we're recommending or asking for feedback from the TMC, and we should solidify that those belong on the list. And then we'll take a look at the lowest scoring projects and see if that gives us some projects that we may want to set aside in order to get down to our list. We can also look, Bruce, at that cost and see where we are. I think we'll be at about 1.4 billion. Go ahead, Edmund.
I'd like to make a motion to add the draft list to the named projects.
Okay, can we cycle through those real quickly to make sure? First of all, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Mary seconds it. All right. So the beginning of this sub, yeah. So just to remind everyone, that would add that would keep the project of Colossal Cave 1, 2, and 3 together as a single project and leave it on the list. Next, the Marianne Cleveland projects would be removed from the recommended list, I would say, and left on that reserve list. Next. Okay, we would keep both Thornydale and the Marana section of Ina Road on the list. Next. We would remove or move to the reserve list the Pima County Ina Road project and would add the Orange Grove #1 project, including its extension to the west that we saw on the map that we had up previously. Next, Drexel Road, the final piece would be added to complete the corridor. Next, Sonoran Corridor would be kept at $20 million for right-of-way, modifying the description to add potential local match to that description. And then finally, the 6th Avenue high capacity transit project. I don't know. Bruce, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, given the discussion we've had about transit, I actually would just propose we move this over into the transit discussion because I think it can't be viewed separately from that larger discussion. If we have to come back and rebalance the numbers after that discussion, I think we have the opportunity to do that, but to make that decision now without more information is really challenging.
Okay, Edmund, are you willing to do that?
Yes, I would like to amend the motion to remove, or I guess to move project 3660 to transit. I'd also like my amendment to include the addition of the last two projects we saw, including the TIA project.
Yes, Mary, continue your second. All
Are
right,
you
thank you.
suggesting that the amount of money that is in the budget for that gets also moved into the transit bucket?
Yes.
Okay, good. Mary, are you okay with that?
Yep.
All right, next slide. So Pima County requested Valencia Road be added, and that project, I assume Edmund would be added,
Yes.
and the I-10 Country Club traffic interchange project, which we believe we need more information about, would simply be kept on the reserve list for now,
right,
until we can make a decision about it with proper input.
I'm sorry, which one?
So
This is the new I-10, or I'm sorry, the new Country Club Road
the
project.
interchange, they're basically saying we don't need RTA funding. However, we'd like to bring TIA project onto the list.
Yeah, we're going to rename number 2540 to Country Club Road I-10 to GIA.
Okay,
Right.
follow-up question, because we were talking about that before, but so when ADOT said they no longer needed RTA funding, has that been taken out of our budget yet? It has.
The 18 Country Club was removed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not really changing it, really.
No, it's adding,
Yeah,
it's
it's adding,
adding
but-
30 million.
Right, but after that other one got taken off.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, just wanted to clarify.
Okay.
I have a question. The Valencia to Mission Road, how does that fit in the county's priority list? Is that one of its top priorities?
Yeah, they requested it specifically at the TMC meeting.
The reason I asked that question is, again, sorry to keep bringing up SLC, but Jan Lesher made very clear that only two of their top priorities had made our initial list, and that wasn't going to fly with the county. I'm trying to understand, does this add a third high priority for the county to the list as we try to satisfy their requirements?
Yeah, that's my understanding. It's their number 5 priority list. Yeah. Okay, we have a couple of questions. Ava and then Karen.
Are we still on track to talk about the transit projects during this meeting? Because if so, could we just refrain from voting until we've had that conversation so we have a better idea about how Northeast Sewer fits into that context?
Yeah, no, we're only going to be talking about the named projects, and although this high capacity transit project is a named project, the motion on the table is to remove it from the named projects and instead take it up when the transit subcommittee and then ultimately the full committee looks at the entire categorical for transit.
Oh, okay, and okay, yeah, and that's why the motion includes moving the whole budget into the transit category.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, I get it. Thanks for that clarification.
Okay, and Karen?
So the motion is going to remove project 2540 and add the widening of Country Club, correct?
The widening of Country Club will become number 2540.
Yeah, it'll rename 2540 and redefine it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I see Rod Lane is with us. Sorry, Rod, I didn't realize you were here. Please, what can you help us with here?
Thank you, Tom. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. So I just wanted to point out that that I-10 Keno and Country Club project, it doesn't need RTA. It would be great if we get RTA funding, but it'll be in construction and moving along before this goes to the voters. So that's scheduled for 23, 24, 25. Excuse me, 24, 25, 26. So that project will be well along the way by the time this goes to the voters. So that's why it wasn't included in the RTA next.
Okay, thank you. Edmund?
Yeah, Rod is correct. And for clarity, the interchange off of Country Club and Keno are happening whether or not we vote on expanding to a 4-lane divided highway from Country Club to TIA. So if we don't, you're gonna have a really beautiful interchange going into the same neighborhood streets. And now we have an opportunity to create a 4-lane, let's call it parkway, beautiful parkway to TIA.
And Mr. Chair, Peter just at Bruce's request, as you can see, back to the Valencia project, to answer your question, it's number 5. That was their number 5 priority, and that's the map of it. So Peter, we can go back to.
What are those limits again? Is it Mission to Cardinal? Is that what it was? Or Camino de Oeste?
Camino de Oeste.
Yeah, okay. Oh, there it is. Just read it. Okay, yeah, back to the slides, please. And next slide. Or is that the last one?
That's it.
That's it.
That's the last one.
Well,
Okay.
for this section.
Yeah. All right. So we do have a motion and a second, and we're continuing to discuss that. Bruce?
I just want to clarify the motion. I think I understand it, but with respect to the country club, to the airport project, what we're saying is we want to keep it on the list and get additional information and response from TIA and the technical management committee. Is that correct?
Right. Okay.
Yes.
But I think what we're saying is that we don't intend to move it forward on our proposed list to the board.
This is
Because
just
we
to
won't,
get it to
because
the
we
named
won't.
projects list.
Again?
This is just to get it to the named projects list.
Yeah.
And then we'll continue negotiating.
Yeah, we'll look at more information as it comes up. Arlen?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it also has the same analysis done as all the other projects before it advances in any way beyond just putting it out there for consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. Carolyn?
I have a question. I don't recall that we had started a reserve list, and are these the only 2 that are on the reserve list, or did we already put some other projects on a reserve list?
Marion Cleveland and Ina Road, and now I-10 Country Club. Those are the only ones I remember that we pulled off.
Okay, but it's not all the projects are on a reserve list, just these 3, and I guess, I don't know, Marianne Cleveland Way and Ina Road, we've had good discussions here and at the TMC, and they were fine with removing them. So to me, they would just go into the rest of the ones that we're not sending forward.
Yeah, that's what I'm calling the reserve list.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would rather just not have if we're gonna have a reserve list, if they give us like twice as much money or whatever, I think we should come back after all this other discussion on other priorities and buckets of money, and we can create a reserve list then. That's what I would propose. Everybody is equal in the rest of the list moving forward. I think that's
Okay, may just be semantics, and I'll defer to smarter people than me. This is my only idea is that we have this master list, which we've just added a couple projects to, and several of those are not going to be recommended in this initial list to the board, and it joins that list.
okay. So yeah, I think it was semantics. I mean, back to our earlier discussion, that's kind of a little sidebar, but I just wanted to clarify, I had made the comment to the TMC of what we talked about here before, that there are a lot of people that have brought up that this might not be the way to go forward, and a more holistic way would be better. And just what you said earlier, Mr. Chair, that we reserve the right to revisit this list yesterday. And, it's basically, this is the hand we were dealt, is that we're dealing with the roadway corridors first and we're almost done with them. So I think we need to be really clear every time. And Mr. Chair, you have been, but every time we talk to the TMC or the board, we make that super duper clear, because it's not just about, well, maybe we can add some if they give us a half or a 0.75% or whatever. But if the needs are so overwhelming on others, we also reserve the right to either take some out or exchange them for some other ones that become more clear.
Yeah.
And I think we're doing that, but I just want to make sure everybody knows.
And it's more than just that this committee not feel like they got railroaded into putting a list together before they could look at transit's impact on it and see it holistically. It's more than that. It's also projects that get sent to the board also get seen by the jurisdictions, and they start to perhaps count on those projects or start to question why other projects did not make it. We've done the best we could to let them know about our process and the projects we're looking at and to get their feedback. But human nature is that, you're going to look at it and say, and start counting. Well, Marana has 2 projects and, Tucson has 17, and where's the equity there? And there's going to be, scrutiny about that list. And I want to make it clear to anyone who looks at it that it is very much a draft piece of work by this committee. Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to offer my voice in support of Carol's comments and other comments that have been made in terms of a holistic approach. I understand the difficulty, and this is only a step in the process in terms of identifying a piece of the overall plan. Ultimately, we as a committee will recommend. And I support the motion only for that purpose. I think it's in terms of moving things forward, trying to provide a deliverable to the board in terms of the initial list that we're considering. I fully support the comments that have been made previously on the additional information that this committee needs, as well as the detailed analysis on some of the projects that have been offered. So I just wanted to add my voice to previous comments about the holistic nature of our job. And but also I want to make sure that everybody hears that I'm in support of the motion for those reasons only.
All right, thank you. All right, Ava, I think you have the last.
Just real
before
quick.
I call for the vote.
Just real quick. Remind me why we're voting again.
I assume that was facetious, but do you want to repeat the question?
Just remind me why we're voting again, because I'm not exactly sure why we're voting. We're voting. Does this really require a vote to get more information and to forward some stuff temporarily so that we can continue to evaluate later on down the road? I just don't know exactly why we're voting.
We're voting to finalize that master list of projects because we got feedback from the TMC and we've discussed new projects and removing projects. I wanted to make sure that we had a master list from which to work, and our next bit of work here is to pare that list down to the 1.1 billion. So, yes. Joanne, quickly, please.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to call for the question.
Very good.
Could I ask a clarifying question as I was taking my own notes?
Please.
With regards to the HCT item and the motion that you made or the amended motion, you said the project in its budget. Does that mean the accompanying transit element would raise by that amount? And then roadway or the named project would go down by the accompanying amount based on that estimate,
Yes,
correct?
yes,
So it's changing budget levels as well as moving the project over.
yes.
Thank you for that
How much is
clarification.
that? How much is that? How much is set aside for the
Peter, can you pull that up? The HCT, whichever project that was, I can't remember. Wasn't it
zero?
60? 50, 60 million, six in my mind.
Stone, 360, 61 or 36,
3660, I believe.
22 million.
All right.
Oh, 22 million for the HCT?
Only in 8 acres.
So 1.078 would be the, yes.
Are we
that'd be-
moving both segments or just the sixth?
The north segment didn't make our list.
Wasn't
not.
submitted, was it?
I thought it was. It's on the potential list. The last list we sent out. South Sixth and Oracle Road to Honotari Transit Center.
Number 3660, the budget connected to 3660. I'm in my motion, removed it from the named
Okay,
project
that's
list
what I'm asking.
and moved it to transit.
Okay, the 3661 stays on the list.
I didn't mention 3661, so I don't have no idea.
It's not on the list.
Yeah. it is.
Yes, 3661 Oracle Road to Monotide Transit Center is still on the
That's
original.
It's still on the list.
On your-
Just move 3660.
Correct.
All right.
So what was?
Before I call for the question, I'd like clarification on this. Who was it that moved to or asked for it to be moved, asked for 3660 to be moved? Bruce? Did you intend for that to be 3660 and 3661?
3660.
My amendment was just for 3660.
All right, so we have one named transit project then in our master list of named projects. Okay? All right. All right, because of this, I'll take one more comment from Patricia.
I just have a question. How can we guarantee that we are able to amend our transit budget when the times that we've asked to discuss categorical funding in this committee hasn't been agendized and like we haven't been able to do it thus far?
We can't. That's it's a board decision. It's a recommendation from us at this point.
Great.
Okay, I just don't feel comfortable then banking on the fact that we're going to be able to then amend the transit budget when we cannot amend the transit budget, apparently.
To clarify, Mr. Chair, at the board meeting, they made it clear that those were the percentages and the numbers they were starting with, but at the our chair's request, they did agree to let us have input. So it's a little bit stronger than we don't. I think our recommendation on this is appropriate. Just not final.
Yeah, and remember also that this is an initial list that we're sending forward. Should it turn out that we are not allowed to move that money to transit, then we'll decide to bring it. We could decide to bring it back to our named project list. It's a little awkward, I think, at this point that we'll have one of these high capacity transit projects in a named list and the other one over in the transit categorical, but so be it. I expect the transit subcommittee to discuss both those projects though.
Hey, Mr. Chair, I would say that that's something else that we would like to hear details from the city of Tucson on.
Exactly.
In the transit.
Okay, all right, we have a motion. I'm not going to attempt to modify it, but I'll ask for your trust that several of us will make sure that it's correct.
We'll sit on that.
All right, let's do a roll call, a vote on this. Once again, this was moved by Edmund, seconded by Mary, that the named project master list be modified as was described in his motion and the amendment to the motion.
Okay, I'll go through the names and just say A or nay. Sean Brown. Dale Calvert,
A.
Carolyn Campbell,
Aye.
Mel Cohen, Arlen Colton,
Aye.
Chuck Dorr,
Aye.
Yeah, hold on just a second. I see that Mel appears to still be on. Mel, we didn't hear your vote if you did.
I'll just run through it and
Okay.
I'll go back.
All right, well, you're still muted. We'll see if we can
Yeah.
get you on.
Sorry, Chuck.
He just,
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Mel.
Thanks.
Chuck Dorr,
Aye.
Michael Edmonds,
Yay.
Justine Hernandez,
Nay.
Ron Hill,
Aye.
Jamie Colley,
aye.
Karen Carl,
Aye.
Brian Keeley,
Yes.
Edmund,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Abby. I'm gonna abstain. Amanda Parkman,
Abstain.
Eva Romero,
Abstaining.
Joanne Sabah,
Aye.
Chris Schmaltz,
Aye.
Patricia Schwartz,
Nay.
Diane Shiflett, Kevin Thornton,
Aye.
Mary. Aye. And Bruce.
Aye.
If I missed you, please, let's see, Sean Brown, is he here?
Yeah, yes, sorry about that. Aye.
Okay. Believe that's everybody.
Does Diane, what did Diane say?
Diane didn't, Diane, I don't think, I didn't see her response. Diane, are you in?
Last chance, Diane. She may have stepped away. Oh, all right.
Okay, this is Diane.
Okay, Diane,
I abstain.
abstain.
Thank you.
That was anticlimactic.
But it's easier to
But,
track.
but very much valued. Thank you for your vote. All right, now
Yes.
I'd like to have us take a look at the
Mr. Chair, what-
lowest. Everybody mute, please. We're going to take a look at the lowest ranking projects overall among.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
What was the total of the votes?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
There are 17 ayes and 3 nays and 4 abstentions. The motion passes. All right, so now we're going to take a look at this project list and attempt to get us down to the total. Peter,
this-
can you show us the whole list?
I was just gonna, before Peter does that,
Okay,
these
go
are
ahead.
projects that are not on your revised priority list. These are projects that received average to low CAC scores. And they didn't stand out and they haven't surfaced to the level of any sort of discussion. And then they were also rated low by the jurisdiction.
And they're still on our list.
Yes, these are still on the list, but they just have not surfaced to this level, so, okay, Peter.
So
Yeah,
they're on this list.
Yeah, they're on the revised list.
All right, and the thought being that if these continue to be, let's say, tepidly supported, that they may be the ones that we want to set aside in our initial list to the board, or some of them anyway. And Peter, how many projects are we looking at?
This is the entire set, but.
No, I want just the ones on our master, our now master list.
Okay.
So Peter, I don't know if you have those in front of you. So 3566. I can give you the number if you want to highlight them. Irvington Road off of the mission. 36.
Wait, hang on. Let him put it by key ID, maybe sort so that we go in order.
3566.
3648.
3648.
3655. 3656. 3658. 3659. 3660. Yeah, but this came, yeah, earlier. 3664. 3666. 3668. And 3672.
Okay, so looking at these projects, we'll go one by one just to remind you of what they are and take a look at both where they were ranked as well as where they are. Now,
so the first one is 3566, which is Irvington Road, Ahaway to Mission.
now that ranks as Pima County's #2 priority.
But it was.
Why is it considered low? Because we didn't rate it very high?
I thought you said that they were rated both low by the jurisdictions and by us. Wasn't that the criteria?
No, I think it was just low by us. Okay. Is where this list came from. But I mean, if you look at the one just above it, ADOT's State Route 210, we only ranked number 32. So I'm not really sure what. Maybe somebody who knows about this list can help us. And our score rank was 21 also, which puts it solidly in the projects that were, within the 1.1 billion. Remember, we were at like 28 projects. Thank you, Abby.
Yep. Just to clarify, these are projects that were either ranked low by the CAC or by the jurisdiction, but also that hasn't gotten to the level of any sort of discussion. It hasn't surfaced. They're kind of middle of the list. Yeah.
Yeah.
These would have been good to take to the last TMC, I guess, in retrospect, to ask about what.
Well, I don't know about everyone else, but yeah, when Pima County had only 2 projects to begin with, and their #2 sponsor, their #2 priority as a community was this Irvington Road project. I can't really see a reason to remove it. Plus, it fell within our rankings at a high enough level that it was within the 1.1 billion. So does anybody want to espouse the removal of that project, or the when I say removal now, I want to make everyone understand what I mean to say by that, and that is that it would not be in the $1.1 billion that we are sending forward as our initial list of named projects to the board. So does anyone want to remove Irvington Road?
Irvington Road.
So moved, Mr. Chair. Joanne Sabah.
I'm just asking for discussion at this point.
Oh, never
do
mind. I unmove.
Okay. Does anyone feel that it should be removed or, moved out? Okay. Yeah. So this is Irvington from Ajo to Mission.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the slides because
Okay.
I want to make sure I'm reading that right. I see it as number 2 for Pima County. And then I'm seeing that CIC priority rank was 23 and CAC score was 21.
Correct.
So it wasn't that low on the CAC.
it was in the middle. That's what we're trying to see. These are just middle average projects that come early.
Okay.
Purpose ready for the discussion.
Then I
Go ahead, Edmund.
Can we reorganize the list per sponsor rank and just look at the lowest priority of our sponsors? That might give us a kind of easier view of what we could remove.
Okay, then what you want to do is at that point, scroll down to the Pima County ones.
Pima County Colossal Cave, there was number 19 on their list.
Yeah, because there's a 21, a 25. There you go. I mean, there's our county saying that's not very important to us.
Which one?
Sonoran, oh, that's Sonoran, that's,
Oh.
I would not remove Sonoran corridor, but look at the Colossal Cave Road, number 2, 19, Marianne Cleveland Way, 14. I mean, that's another way to
Yeah.
peek at it.
Well, yeah, since we already talked about those, what we were trying to show is the kind of middle of the ground ones. So why don't we just go back to the slides? I think it's easier to see and at least it has the topic there. And if anything jumps out, we can go back to the portal to get some detail. But so the first one was hard to do without with all.
Hi, Jamie.
I know, we see Jamie.
Jamie's face was huge. That was good.
I don't think I'd want to see my face.
No.
Okay.
There you go.
So this one that we're talking about is Irvington Road, Ajo to Mission Road, new roadway and intersection. And again, there's nothing wrong with these projects. These are just middle of the road projects that were either not ranked very high by CC or by the jurisdiction. In this case, it was just ranked in the middle, average by the CAC. So we're just trying to show you projects that you haven't really talked about to say, do you want to just move forward with removing them? Do you want to keep them? What do you want to do?
Bruce?
So I realize all those scores and stuff, this is more anecdotal than anything else, but if anybody's driven that road, it is a disaster. It is overcrowded, congested, particularly during drive times. It is a really challenging road. And it sort of underscores that even though this doesn't rank high, our transportation needs to go well beyond the 1.1. And this is just a perfect example of this. Lots of growth out in that area.
I totally agree with you, except that I don't think that this even needs to be here for further discussion. It's very high ranked by Pima County for a reason, and it is relatively highly ranked by us as a committee. So unless somebody wants to make a quick justification for its removal, I suggest we move to the next one on
I
our list.
don't, but I'm sorry to interrupt, but I would just wanted a clarification because I thought this meant there is no road there yet going through from, but there is.
There is.
So what is new roadway?
Really
mean? Just,
bad.
like paving it? It doesn't say modernize and it's got intersection improvements, doesn't say widen.
So it trims down into less lane. Oh, there you go. You have
Yeah,
something.
towards the west end. So this would be establishing the connection to Aho Way. You're right. Everybody's right. There is an existing roadway there, but it doesn't connect to Aho yet. So that's why it fell under the designation of basically a new road, because it would be building that new connection, standing on a virgin alignment, and then connecting that facility for the entire length.
It is bumper to bumper traffic.
Really?
I think we pick up a ton of votes from the people that drive that when they see that that's on the list.
Yeah. Okay. Next project.
Next project, 3648 Speedway Boulevard from Alvernon Way to Wilmot Road. This is to modernize the corridor. Again, I don't know, Peter, if you have it in front of you, how it was ranked. You don't
Oh, it's
really have it.
by the sponsor or by the CAC?
Both.
Both.
Just let's see the
Just a
spreadsheet.
quick snapshot of both.
Okay.
You
yeah,
don't
the
have to go
sponsor was-
back to the spreadsheet, just tell us.
Yeah, the sponsor was 13 and the CAC priority rank, it was 20.
Okay, 13 and 20.
I had about, it's right in the middle.
Oh, Edmund, sorry.
I drive that corridor a lot, and in full transparency, I own a property in the midst of that corridor, and it's very congested. It feels outdated. There's a lack of sidewalks, people just kind of walking in kind of parking lot areas in the limited parking that's alongside the Speedway. And it's just bad.
I'll tell you also, if Abby doesn't want to ride her bike on Oracle Road, I would say ditto for a Speedway.
Well, Abby also doesn't want to walk all the way across Alvernon Way and Speedway with an
Right.
8-year-old because there's no way we can even make it to the median.
Yeah.
So I don't know if any of that has to do with it because they widen, it's like a half a mile wide. I don't know if modernize means helping out.
Okay, I think this goes to a basic question of, we still haven't got a real, I've got a concept of what modernizing is, but I'm not sure that I understand. My understanding of modernizing is it's going to have improved bicycle lanes, it's going to have sidewalks, and it's also going to be reconstructed up from the base.
Yeah, bus pullouts,
And
better
bus
signals.
pullouts,
Yeah.
And it's going to have, and they're gonna consider it intersections, whether there needs to be turn lanes, et cetera.
Right.
But all of that's subject to engineering design. And I think this is a problem we've got. But I very definitely think it's a project that should still be considered. I'd hate to just throw it out at this point, but I think we got a whole lot of this to do.
Mr. Chair, just Rick, if you want to expand a little bit further on this particular.
I was gonna say, you were summing it up pretty good. You can think of it, and I don't have all the exact specific notes in front of me, but think of it that way, that the capacity needs of the roadway are adequate. The lane configuration for the most part is there, but it lacks the fully functional facilities that would enhance it. Transit, whether it's pullouts or stops, bike lanes, dedicated sidewalks, appropriate sized, appropriate spacing on all those aspects of it. Plus then whatever mods would need to be made at major intersections. So whether those are turning lanes or bringing the other aspects up for crossing or enhancing if there's major crossings that need to be added in terms of bike boulevards, hawks, things like that. So basically it's the idea that the lane configuration, the number of through lanes is good. Everything else has to be brought up to that comparable level of standards. Does that answer your question? And does that paint a better visual?
Just bus pullouts and right-hand turn lanes in that corridor would make a huge difference of the traffic flow.
Yeah.
You have one bus stop and that you just shut down an entire lane.
Yeah, those are the impediments, and we describe those as operational type of things because you are correct. Those will hinder that, and those during the engineering phase get weighed out as to, okay, that's a $5 million property acquisition. Is that worth it? Is that beneficial? What does that get us? So those would be trade-offs that would be analyzed during the design phase, but that's the intent, is capturing those aspects, elements, and incorporating them in.
Arlen.
Yeah, mine is a general comment. This is confusing to me because I haven't looked at these projects individually, and I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me. as we're going through and deciding, should we take something off the list? Yes, it's partially on how high they ranked and how high they were selected by the jurisdiction. But if for each one of these, if Rick or somebody else could do just a very quick synopsis of what this project is, so that we all are working from the same song sheet, that would be very helpful as we go through them. Thank you.
I'm sorry, everyone. I'm at a crossroads right now as far as the best way to attack this. My intention had been to look at those projects that were the lowest ranking by anybody, whether it was by the jurisdiction or by us, and work our way up, thinking that those that were lowest ranked had the least amount of support and would make the most sense for us to eliminate. Could we pull up the spreadsheet and see all of the projects that we currently have? I believe there are 39 projects. I thought it was 41, but maybe when we combined the three colossal caves, it went down to 39.
And Tom, this is Arlen. That makes sense to me. If you could do it from the lowest ranked up, it might get through it faster.
Yeah. So, all right, there's 39, but I was surprised by what the total cost of those 39 projects was. I don't see it there now, but it was like 1.297, if I recall. It was less than the number that I had seen before. And maybe because we've now removed the ones that we were saying that we would.
Brings us back to philosophy.
So can we start? Can we start by taking these, Peter, and giving them some other designations so that we don't lose them, but they don't show up in the total dollar amount?
We don't have the ability right now to change the CAC list capability on this.
Okay,
but I can.
but I mean, you can highlight them and remove them to and then total the ones that are not highlighted or whatever, right?
Right.
Okay. Why does it say 96 million at the bottom?
Not sure.
Okay, now it
I
doesn't.
think because you have some highlighted, right?
Now it says
3.6 million.
Well, that's all
Inflation.
108. We're not looking at the 108. We're looking at the 39.
There you go.
Yeah, there it was. So we're at 1.3 billion. We need to lose 200 million minimum. Go ahead.
Just a pragmatic perspective.
Sure.
So none of us in this room, maybe except for Bruce, I don't even know, but none of us are engineers. We're not traffic expert. Are you? Okay, you are. Maybe you tell us, but I'm not. I'm an insurance agent who loves this community. So I'm not an engineer. I'm not a traffic. I don't analyze traffic. I would think we came up with a pretty good list at 1.297. I would then pass it on to the pros and say, hey, engineers or people, our sponsors that understand traffic, the TMC, why don't you pare this down or at least give us your definite low hanging fruits? I mean, we're not traffic professionals.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I am really focused, as you can tell, on $1.1 billion, and I'm okay moving off of that, gnawing on that bone. But we can right now at least take the projects that we've already said we're not going to send forward and pull them out to see what our cost is. So can we do that, Pocky? Can you help us find all those projects that we talked about in Edmund's motion and the ones that were removed? So we know that 3660 should be taken away from this list.
Peter, is there a way to
I think he can.
hide those or something?
I can't hide it, but
it can highlight, and then just
Export that
add
to
the
an Excel
highlights.
spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, export it to an Excel spreadsheet, then we can manipulate it.
This includes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So we're gonna remove the 3 Marianne Clevelands and the 3660. We know that. And the 2 Marianne Clevelands. There's one at 3647, I believe. Were those had already been combined? No, there was a separate. Thank you. Just out of curiosity, what's the total cost now?
1,800,000,000 or 80 million?
I'm sorry, can you?
1,080,000,000
See, there you go.
under the RTA funding request, or do you want the total cost?
What, RTA funding?
Yeah, that's about 1,080,000,000.
All right, let's just keep talking about these projects that we were removing and modifying.
I did that. No, it's not. Yeah, that was
Keeping the
The
other
1,800,000,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1,000,000,000.
Yeah,
1,080,000,000.
You're saying to add in the.
All right,
we
number
removed 36.
473 can be removed.
Which one?
It looks like it already has been. 473,
473, yeah, it was. That was the other one.
okay, and then there was 3569 added.
3569.
There at the, okay, so we're gonna need to add that in. That is the Orange Grove Road number 1.
3569.
Yeah.
That's the one that's reflecting.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Have any easy way to get that information over to the spreadsheet?
Okay, let me pull it up and tell you what it is, and you can just type it in.
It's at 3569.
I can just type it in. Which one, the country club?
3569 should be Orange Grove Road number 1.
Was the total on that?
Oh, it wasn't even on our list.
Yeah.
No, this is something that they're suggesting.
Yeah.
Replace the INO with this one.
All right, so we have to go to the 108 to find that one.
Right, it's me.
That's where you had it.
Orange Grove.
Five 69.
Yeah. Okay, and now let me just look back and make sure that we did what we said.
Need to add TIA.
And we were keeping, I just want to make sure we still have these 2546 and 1535.
No, no 1535.
That's the Ina Road, number 3. That's Marana's Ina Road.
We have a list of 37.
Yeah.
It's I-10 to Communidale at Tierra. Cost was 18 million. Okay. And did I know we added Orange Grove? Number 472 is still in.
On there.
And number 3570 remains in. Okay. And 3660 is removed.
Move that.
I thought you guys wanted to.
We're moving this to the transit. 3661 stays on. 3642 is a new project, right? Valencia Road. Yeah.
That's Valencia Road. You know the rest.
What was
I think 476 needs removed.
Costumes.
You're gonna have to look for the cost. I'm gonna change this to
the cost of that? No, they don't.
Up towards them. 3642.
42.
Oh, there it is. 42.6.
find it.
Yeah.
And 2540 is going to be a new project. I think we've already had it out. And this will be Country Club.
Yeah, I think we should put that. 2540.
Yeah, I'm only putting it in here so that you can then hide it.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was the number on that?
Number 2540 is the ID number.
Cost of that. Do you care?
30 million.
Okay. And then hide that.
In here, they said the county has additional. Okay, that's all of the projects that we talked about. What's that total cost now, Peter?
1.236 billion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Bruce.
consistent with your concern about the transit things, I would suggest that we move 3661 over to transit and take it off this list.
What's the amount on this one?
I think it's 15 million or something.
15 or 18, yeah. Yeah, 15 million. Okay, hide that one. And we're still at what, 1.22.
Well, we were, to be consistent, we would also be taking that out of the 1.1 budget and putting it over in the transit
Right.
budget, so. But that's a good idea.
And what's the total?
1.221.
Okay, all right, so of these projects, so can we look at those projects in any detail, Peter, at this point? Oh, we have the priority ranks there. Let's just take a quick look at those.
Mr. Chair? Didn't we eliminate 476?
476.
Yes, we did.
Which
Oh, yeah,
one?
remove Mary. Yep, Mary actually would.
Also 3647.
Wonder if we had 2 copies of this Excel spreadsheet, because I saw you hide them
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here.
So make sure 3647 and 476 are removed.
So when she- What was the other one?
3647
Mhm.
and 476.
Okay.
Yeah, there's that.
Okay.
Where are we at now?
1.169.
Man.
1.169.
Have to discount by 69 million.
And the 2 that we moved, the 2 transit projects were how much? 15 and how much?
22.
The other one-
22?
Yeah.
Well, two low hanging fruit, you just moved the list, I'm sorry. There's a 2 sponsor ranked, 23 and 24, which is 12th Avenue on both of them. There's some possibility. They're not ranking them very high, our sponsor.
Which ones?
12 avenues.
Yeah, 12th Avenue towards the bottom. I can't see that far.
3658 and 3659.
Right. Both ranked 23rd and 24th for their sponsor.
And that's the city.
Yeah.
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 Well, 3658 actually reduces the lane, which I would think doesn't help capacity, so it might be a good one to lose.
Yeah.
Well, shouldn't be that much money either, right?
Well, that's
9 million.
Yeah, it's 9 million and
13.5.
4,500,000. It is what they call a functionalization, which is a downgrade from what we were talking about modernizing. It basically, from what I understand, and I'm willing to be corrected, it mainly adds the bicycle paths and the sidewalks, et cetera. And I would point out to people that when you think about this one and you think about Speedway, both of those roadways have fairly high pedestrian bicycle deaths.
Traffic, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't want to make any decisions until we look at the map again about, I mean, we added Colossal Cave that was pretty low on everybody's list.
Mhm.
And now this might be low, but then we need to look at the regional map again too, in parts of town. It's not just jurisdictions, it's parts of town where I don't know how many projects we have in that area.
Well, 3646 is 25th sponsor rank and 60th
Yeah.
from CAC priority.
Which one?
3646.
Colossal Cave. As I discussed before, the city and the county had not put their heads together about those 3 Colossal Cave projects. And when they did, they agreed that it really was needed.
I also.
And just to make it clear, that is the city portion of the whole Colossal Cave Road. And basically, if that is not included, then you're gonna leave the freeway on the Colossal Cave exit. You're gonna drive a short distance on the new county road.
And
then it's
stop
gonna
at
narrow
the,
down
and
to
stop
2
at the
lanes.
railroad.
And then, no, before you get to the 2 lanes, it's gonna widen back out to the county.
Wow, that's bad PR for the city.
And so, I mean, the bottom line is that portion of the road really, I mean, if you're gonna.
I've driven it. That's horrible area. Horrible.
One of the comments that was made, as I asked, how come this is so low on the county list, was they weren't necessarily thinking geopolitical at the point where they made those rankings. And as they looked at the greater picture of the map, they realized how critical those far east side locations were. Geopolitically.
Bruce.
Yeah, just to emphasize, the city went out and annexed a finger of land across this Colossal Cave Road to maximize its industrial development. And it is separated by 2 pieces of land that may ultimately become part of a incorporated vale.
Wow.
It's about a half a mile long. It would be stupid not to include it as an integrated project.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna do it or you're not gonna do it.
Yeah, you're not gonna do any of them. Then.
Yeah,
exactly.
I would have to do
And, you know, when you talk about the rankings, I mean, to the city of Tucson, it's not very important. You know. Really,
Except that
Cleveland's much more important.
Except that if you look at the entire list here, you realize, I know I was criticized for talking to the Vail Chamber of Commerce, but we've gotten more outreach from them than really anybody else as a committee. And one of the reasons is just what, voters are going to notice and what the city is finally starting to notice, which is that they have virtually no projects in our list of projects, which admittedly they sent to us in this section of town. So obviously it's an issue, and
Also, when the
Gotta be
county
looking at it.
transportation director came back and spoke to us, she raised Colossal Cave back up
Yeah.
to a priority item because they recognize, given the growth that's happening there, it's becoming a critical issue. So
that's correct.
And I will say, I mean, what in reference to what you're commented about, there's politics inside the city too. So, as a practical matter, Ward 4, which encompasses all of this area, has nothing in it, and I expect that when it comes to public comment, they're going to be publicly commenting and fighting for the fact that they have.
All right, I have a comment from Marlon first, and then Edmund.
Thank you. You had talked about the 12th Avenue projects and questioning those. The 12th Avenue projects are the picture postcard of healthy communities and a major equity issue, probably maybe the most major equity issue in the region that's on this list. And I think if is still discussion about removing those two, I would object.
Yeah, agree. I agree. So.
And
Does it hurt us timeline wise if we paused at 1.2 billion while the TMC and the board continue to negotiate and figure out what their priorities are?
What are we again, Peter?
1.169.
Oh, we're 69 million off.
Yeah.
I would just hand them this and say,
Yep.
Mr.
Great
Chair,
more
is
sales
there anything
back.
else- is there
I'm
anything,
okay with that.
anything else that this group can possibly remove?
Yeah, so everybody online and here, let's walk through these and shout out if there's something that you either don't understand or really don't like. And okay, I won't say that. Colossal Cave, Drexel, La Villita in Saurita, Lambert Lane in Oro Valley, Shannon Road, also in Oro Valley, Pima Mine Road in Saurita, Cortero in Marana. That's one of the TIs. And the amount on that is $90 million. Cortero, 36th Street overpass, which is a South Tucson project. Tangerine Road, Ina Road, Country Club, Camino de Oeste in the Pascuayaki Village, Thornydale Road, which we just added at TMC's request. The two State Route 210, 3 State Route 210 projects. Let's see, Irvington Road, which we discussed, Orange Grove Road, which we discussed, and Sonoran Corridor, Valencia Road, the Colossal Cave Combined Project, Speedway, which we just talked about, Drexel Road, two Drexels, and that's actually the one combined, and then the new one that we added to complete the corridor, I believe. Prince Road, Irvington Road, Drexel Road. There's another Drexel. Huh. Yeah, they didn't get numbered very well, I guess. Campbell.
Mr. Chair?
Street. I'm sorry?
I don't know if you wanted to shout out for
please do.
questions. 3655 Campbell. I'm not necessarily opposed to this, but this is another way, but multiple ways to get to the airport. I know that's not the main purpose of this, but Campbell dead ends at Valencia, and you're half a mile or a quarter mile from the a way to get into the airport from there. We're looking at the existing Tucson Boulevard main entrance into the airport. Now we're potentially looking at Country Club going in more directly, and we would have this Campbell. So I don't know if the money spent on Campbell is partly to modernize it, to make it look good for getting into the airport, or if it's for completely other purposes.
Okay, good point. When we do get more information back on Country Club, I think it does make sense to look at it in combination, if you will, or perhaps in competition with Campbell Avenue.
So we'll put that with the more information like we did with Ina and Orange Grove
Thank you.
to the TMC.
Yeah, I think if we leave it on the list right now, then it may very well just get switched with Country Club should we decide to do that. What's the amount of this project?
27 million.
27.
27.
27.
And the other one's 30, so basically they're the same.
It's 20, yeah, it's 27 million. You want to hear the description that was brought in? Minor arterial Benson Highway to Valencia Road, modernized corridor to include continuous accessible pedestrian facilities, landscaping, lighting, upgraded traffic signals, enhanced bike lanes, and safe crossings and repave. The cross section for lanes, I think, stays the same.
I don't want to keep that in.
I actually had a question on that earlier and I didn't get, is your name Rick? Yeah. So, what, Rick, yes. So in this same area, Campbell / Pino Benson Highway, this is the county has a market rate lease happening with the Mosaic Quarter, which is a $400 million development. You also got HSL owning property out there. You've got Casper's Group, Pulualoa. The Benson Highway is gonna have a $500 million worth of development. I would think they'd be paying impact fees, and that piece could also be taken care of by a lot of those developers or who are going to need the infrastructure from sidewalks, et cetera. They're putting in hotels, they're putting in restaurants. It's going to be a 90-acre 5-sport facility happening in that area. That may be handled by impact fees. I mean, I don't know.
I'm afraid I can't speak to that either. I'd have to go back on a lot of notes and see if that came up during our conversations. We did reach out to the jurisdictions over the course of the last couple of years to get insights on the projects, things like that. Are there offsite mitigation requirements? But I don't have any of that right in front of me. I'd have to bring that back in a future meeting.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Are the jurisdictions supposed to be getting back with us on their share of impact fees that would affect this budget?
Possibly, if I remember right, that was a request
I think
that's
it's supposed to have
complementary
already been
funds.
done.
Yeah, additional funding or supplemental funds that would be brought either in the form of impact fees, other contributions.
And obviously those will be refined over the coming months as the RTA goes out to try to get much tighter, better total cost estimates. Carolyn?
Another question along those lines is Rod Lane still on? That doesn't.
I don't. Yes. Oh, there he is.
Rod, Carolyn, could you answer the question as we've been talking about this? The ADOT projects that are in here are still the full budgets, and you are going to be coming back with us with a particular portion of that you were going to be including in the RTA, but this doesn't reflect that. Is that true?
I believe that's true. What are the dollar values? I'm looking at the list. What are the numbers? Where's the ADOT numbers?
Okay. So I think we're good.
Yeah, we're still can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, we haven't gotten back with those final numbers. I'm talking to other members of the other jurisdictions and other members and such about how we want to proceed with that. So, but that is the general consensus that ADOT was never expecting the full project cost. It was merely participation.
We also know, though, that these numbers here are somewhat dated, right? So there's also a question of what their actual total costs might be now with inflation added. So some of these have more than one question, I guess, associated with them. Let me just finish this quick list that I'm reading down. 22nd Street. Let's see. Alpinanda Camino Seco. Oh, I see. Drexel, again, the 212th Avenues, La Choya, which is part of the city of Tucson, Mission Road, or 29th Street, sorry, Mission to Southwest Greenway, Stone Avenue, Mission Road, Santa Cruz River Park to 36th, and then Fort Lowell and St. Mary's Road, Silver Bell to I-10. Now, I noticed that Silver Bell, as an example, or St. Mary's, I'm sorry, has a quite low ranking from the city. Probably the lowest rank of any of the sponsored ranks that are left there, besides the anomaly of Colossal Cave Road.
Budget.
And its budget is 7.5 million.
Such a bad roadway too. As a cyclist, when you ride through there, like waves of asphalt that you go
Yeah,
over.
that's what they're helping with on this. I wouldn't take that one out. Not yet.
All right, again, Peter, our total cost right now?
Right now, it's 1.169.
0.169.
We're close. That's
I'd be
great.
willing to accept a motion to forward this list to the board.
Moved.
So moved.
I'm sorry, didn't we already do that?
No.
Finalize the list. Now we're
Oh,
making a
that's
motion to board it.
All right,
I'll second.
it's moved by Edmund, and actually Ron beat you, Mary.
Mary and I have been together all.
You two are a pair. I've got to split you up.
Come on.
All right, any comments on this motion?
A nice list.
All right, let's do a roll call on this list, please. Let's see, make sure we still have our quorum. That would really.
We have quorum. All right. Ready? Sean Brown,
Yes.
Gail Calvert,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Aye.
Yes.
Mel,
Yes.
Arlen,
Yes.
Chuck Dorr,
Yes.
Michael Edmonds, Justine, Ron Hill,
Yes.
Jamie Colley,
Yes.
Karen Carl,
Yes.
Brian Keeley,
Yes.
Edmund,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Amanda Parkman, Eva, Joanne Sabah,
Yes.
Chris Schmaltz,
Yes.
Tricia, Diane,
Yes.
Yes.
Mary, and Bruce. And I didn't hear Justine, so I think she left. Okay. And Amanda Parkman left. And Eva. Patricia.
All right, are there any abstentions? Yeah, I remembered to ask, but.
They would have said, yeah, roll call. They're abstaining from answering.
All right, motion passes by a vote of 18-0. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it. This is what we came to do, and I so do appreciate all your engagement and sticking around to get this done.
Thank you.
It's been a heck of a journey to get here. And remember, we've not gotten there yet. Okay, we're here, we're not there. And we'll continue to refine this list and get more information. But now all our attention much of our attention is going to go to these categoricals and beginning, of course, with the transit subcommittee and discussions here. Bruce.
I have just a question and observation. The transit focus is really important. It seems to me, I'm not sure delegating that to a subcommittee makes a lot of sense unless the subcommittee is going to solicit input from the jurisdictions and come up with projects. Seems to me that this is a discussion that ought to be committee wide because it is as important as is the named projects. So I guess if you're going to have the subcommittee, I'd like for you to at least notify us of that so that the rest of us can participate in that process because I don't want to just delegate that to a small group of people.
Okay, the issue with participating is that we need the subcommittee to remain a subcommittee. So participating may mean that those who are not members of the subcommittee can listen in, but not necessarily fully participate in the meeting in order to keep quorum and all of that.
So I guess my question is then, what is going to be the process and the procedure that committee uses to evaluate projects, bring them forward for our consideration and so on? Are we going to solicit input from the jurisdictions on what transit projects they would like?
Absolutely, we are.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Carolyn. I appreciate that.
Remember our last, we were pretty successful the last time, and I do remember we went into some details of the transit subcommittee, but city and the Suntran also came back to the full committee and really went over that information again. Can't remember if we made any changes, but it seemed to be pretty successful, but I agree that we should bring it to the whole committee, but sometimes it really is more effective to have people that are paying attention and know more about transit like Dale.
In my case, I was on the original committee and then I never got noticed any other meetings, so I don't know if I'm on or off, so.
Oh, you were original this time or last time?
Last time.
You were at all the meetings, like,
Yeah,
But then there have been subsequent meetings. I didn't know who the composition.
no,
of the
there haven't
committee
been much. I'll make
Yeah.
a comment about this. I originally made the motion to do a separate committee with the concept that we would be working simultaneously with the other projects. Now, you can answer, Tom, more than I can as to whether we're really going to be doing simultaneously much of anything else, or are we going to be waiting to hear back from the board? And, and so I'm open to the idea that we do it in whole committee. I'm not sure. What I'm concerned about is whether we can get quorums before the whole committee. I think there are certain numbers of certain people who are more interested in what we just talked about.
Well, just if I could address that, and both or all these questions, my vision of this, I guess, has been that there's quite a bit of background work and gathering of information that's needed. And I believe that it's not the best use of our committee time or full committee time to do that. So what I would anticipate is having a big portion of each of our CAC meetings be devoted to transit. And that largely being presentations from our transit subcommittee, bringing us up to date, keeping us up to date. I don't expect them to run off, develop a plan, come back and dump it on the committee, but rather to keep us advised as we go, but not require that the entire committee, remain fully engaged in that. We had, I think, 25 members today, and I think nearly everybody had something to say, and some people had several things to say. It would be difficult, I think, for the subcommittee to have that many cooks.
I agree with you on that. And I would suggest, and it's not a suggestion motion, but that we review the list of who's on that committee and we get the notices out. And if you're not on, if he's not on the list, should we add him?
Okay, Mr. Chair, yeah, I know we have to finish the agenda, but I did send out an email requesting people to be on the subcommittee. I only put the people that responded. So Bruce, if I didn't get you, but now.
I didn't see it. I'm sorry.
Okay, there is a number that we have to stick to, the members. So, but let's further discuss this. The chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we need to.
All right, I will once again ask you for item 5 for future agenda items, which we've just been discussing, that if you have others, please send them to me or to Paki. And with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks a million.
Thank you.
Great work.
Thank you.
So,
What?